Hey, Rosie. Hey, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. So you guys, Leza just graduated from BizCraft and Coterie Foundations this morning, like a couple hours ago. Congratulations, Leza.
Thank you. It's been amazing.
It's an amazing journey. Take it
Thank
away.
Yeah, it seems like it just went in the blink of an eye. So, I'll try to make my story brief. I moved to America in March of 2020. I was living in Tokyo for 20 years. And I had a yoga studio there, and I'm a writer, and I teach mindfulness, yoga, meditation, and I write books. And my Japanese husband, and I had adopted a little boy from an orphanage in Japan when he was 2. And he became a teenager and started having a lot of difficulty. And it kind of wreaked havoc on everything. And so I decided, you know what? He's never lived in the States. He doesn't speak English. I'm going to just leave everything here, sacrifice everything for this kid, because it was kind of make it or break it. He just wasn't thriving. Japan's very rigid. Adoption is not something that's done there. He didn't look like me. He was bullied, on and on. So I came here, and of course, COVID hit. Everything was shut down. We were locked in, and this is a very active kid. And I got him a mountain bike. Let's go. Got him a dog. Basically, I was the only person in his life here, and so you can imagine it was not pretty. Like, he was going through a lot of trauma and stress, and a lot of perhaps deep-seated traumas arose of abandonment, etc. And so I was a mess. And I one day saw on Facebook the volcanoes, and I had no idea who they were. I didn't know anybody who'd ever done any of this. And I listened to Kit and Rosie's introduction about what the GYST was, and I said, I'm signing up for this. I was such at rock bottom, and I had left everything I'd known and loved, and and we were locked in, right? So it was kind of like I wasn't who I used to be, and I didn't know who I could become, and I couldn't go back. And I was being a mom, and that was it. That was my identity, and it wasn't a pretty relationship. And I signed up for the GYST. I was blown away, and I've been teaching this type of thing for 25 years. But I loved the way that Kit and Rosie were so playful and fun, and they have a lot of knowledge and tools, but they package it in such a way that's so accessible and usable, and you just want to jump in and do it. And I felt great, and I was dancing, and I was putting on tiaras and hats, and I was just laughing for the first time in God knows how many years. And so I signed up for BizCraft. And I had a coach, and Laura Grace and Lauren Oxen Handler both, and they both said to us, you're me, us. That was a good Freudian slip. You're a classic codependent. That was the message. You're a classic codependent. And I was like, no, I'm not a codependent. I'm this independent, strong woman. I have my own business. I had, no, you're a classic codependent. And every time I'd get on the coaching call, I would say, my son did this, my son did that. And they would both say, I don't want to hear about him. I do not care about him. I want to hear about you. What are you feeling? What are you doing? And I realized, like, for 15 years, my life had been consumed by this other person, and it was not a healthy relationship. There was love there, but there was a lot of, I was taking on a lot of the trauma. And so I got it. I was like, oh my God, I'm a codependent, because I'd heard and read these books years ago. So I went back and did the work, and I read the book, and I started to work with the nonviolent communication. I started to set really strong boundaries. And the main thing that I did from the BizCraft was that I asked for help. Like, I was the person who was the helper. I was the leader. I was the master, and here I was not. I was the person who needed help. And that was huge for me to say, I'm a hot mess and I need help, and to get resources, and to have my coaches say, okay, how can you get resources for this and for this and for this, and setting my boundaries. So that was huge. And then the other thing is that if you have a teenager, or if you were a teenager ever, triggers. Like, how to push those buttons. And I was living with somebody who really enjoyed pushing my buttons 24/7, and I was exhausted. And Kit gave me this great advice. And he said, love around the things that trigger you. Love around the things that trigger you. And I was like, whoa, really? Like, instead of resisting and getting triggered back, can I open my heart so much so that I can just, hold this person who's clearly hurting, with love, and then somehow, it's like throwing the paint against the wall. If you make a bigger room, there's nothing for the shit to land on, the paint to land on. So my son started changing because I was changing. And then
Wow.
he started thriving. He was at a public school. He got a full scholarship to a private school. He's a soccer player. He got signed with a semi-professional soccer team, which is huge.
Wow.
He's 17. He got his driver's license, all this stuff. He started to come into his own being and come into his power and not have to be difficult with me because he recognized his own self-worth. What a surprise, right? Mom starts to feel better about herself. So the mirror, right? So
Wow.
anyway, it was huge. The nonviolent communication, the resourcing, the admitting the codependency, asking for help. And then, you got invited to Costa Rica to play soccer. Now he's starting to get recruited by colleges, including Ivy Leagues. Like, this
Oh my God.
he didn't even speak English 2 years ago.
Oh my God, Leza.
I'm talking about him.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's all a reflection. It's good. It's good.
I published 2 books, recently. I got a huge legal settlement that I was pretty sure was never going to happen. I'm teaching meditation and mindfulness. I'm coaching in this program. It's like, because I was so broken and I allowed myself to be broken and to ask for help, I am so much stronger now, the wounded healer, right? I mean, I'm so much stronger in myself and vulnerable and able to hold people's vulnerability. So the thing I want to close on, the other thing about BizCraft for me, which was so great, is the community. And I said this morning in the call, is people who see the best in you bring out the best in you. And I really felt that in the volcano. Nobody knew me. Nobody knew who I was in Japan, or and people just saw the best in me and wanted to bring out the best in me. And then thank you, Liz. I'm gonna cry. Likewise, vice versa. Like, if I started seeing the best in my son, instead of just focusing on all the negativity and the drama and the triggering, I started to see, wow, this kid is freaking amazing. Like, he moved to the States. He didn't know anybody. He didn't speak English. He worked so hard and he's just thriving. So it's just been 180. And I'm really so grateful to Kit and Rosie and my coaches in this community for this chance, because it was just like a random Facebook scroll, but I trusted my intuition. Like Kelly was saying, as a coach too, this is such an important thing, to trust your intuition and to hold the people that you're coaching and trusting theirs too. So thank you for letting me share my story.
Wow.